Hey everybody, it's Chuck. Welcome back to the AI4 Model Y. Well, we did get an unbelievable amount of effort from the Tesla AI team this Thanksgiving. They dropped the point release v14.2.1. This isn't news to any of you watching this video because it went out to a lot of people, which is great news. Some sort of bug fix. There was a tiny little change to the release notes. Most people have mentioned this, but if you're watching for the first time, they did add this note that camera visibility can lead to increased attention monitoring. I don't think it's talking about that camera. I think it's talking about cameras outside. So in other words, if degraded visibility happens, they're saying that increased attention monitoring might also ensue. I also think that the density of the traffic you're navigating in has a little bit to do with the attention monitoring required. We've seen that from some videos out there already. And I think that's the situation. I've got our route programmed in here. Let's go do our Memorial Park test drive and see what we got. It's 7:30 on Black Friday, so I do not consider this to be a rush hour day. Maybe we'll get some shopping traffic later in the day, but I think most people are still waking up from the holiday yesterday. It is a work day for some, not many here in the United States. Most people are out, God forbid, shopping today. You won't find me doing that. Although today would be one of the best days to do a Costco parking lot test for sure, or a Best Buy test, or any of those other places that drive the sales today. All right, quick NHTSA stop. Little bit of a wait here. Hey, we had to wait on somebody. And then we're going to get a quick clear from the left and clear from the right. Smooth as butter. All right, we're going to call that a nice, well-executed, unprotected left-hand turn. We're not going to dilly-dally with that. We're going to go ahead and, wow, my whole route disappeared. We're going there, and we're going to, so I need to start spending some time editing my route. Okay, the U-turn is programmed. I thought I put the route in here before I did put the route in here, but I backed out and I got in position to drive and it disappeared. You know, there is some navigation stuff going on with FSD 14, at least 14.2. A lot of people were talking about navigation decisions. I noticed this one other thing that I haven't talked about yet. I've asked a few people in private chats, and I'll just mention it here as we start this to see if any of you have also seen this. You know, when you select a route and it gives you a couple choices, the primary choice it's selected is in dark blue, and the secondary choices are alternate routes, I guess you'd call them, are in light blue. I would select a specific drive to perhaps keep me back in the neighborhood and keep me off of the busy road, because I'd say, no, this is the way I want to go. And then I engage start to drive and I go out to the stop sign, and gosh darn if it hadn't reselected the route I didn't want. So I don't know if any of you have seen that. It was on both the Cybertruck and this car. It was like it was recalculating the optimal routes after I had already selected my preferred route. And that's great if you've got new alternate routes, but don't change something I select, if that makes sense. And if the Tesla engineering team is watching that, see if you can duplicate that or understand what I'm talking about. And that may be fixed in this release, and I just don't know it yet. So we'll kind of continue on with that. I'm noticing on my tire pressure, I got one tire that's a few PSI underneath. It is chilly today. It's 42 degrees outside right now. That's Jacksonville chilly. So there's a chance my pressures are a little bit off, but I usually don't have a PSI difference like that. So I may need to inspect that tire. That could be something to keep an eye on. Okay, pay attention to the road, Chuck. See, I finally got a warning. I've been looking at the screen and all sorts of things. So I need to start editing the trip. I think it was Devin or somebody else was saying that they felt like the attention monitoring on the phone was the same on this build, but that the fiddling with the screen was a little bit more lenient. That's something we can probably fiddle with a little bit here, because you guys know I fiddle with the screen a lot. All right, Supercharger Jacksonville, that's my second stop after Gate Express. And then we go to I-10, and I'm just playing with the screen, letting this car drive. I might as well be a passenger. All right, we're going to go to I-10, and then we're going to go to the 5-way roundabout, and then we're going to go to 5 points. All right, let me just double check here and make sure everything's fine, but it's not complaining, and I'm playing with this screen the whole time. 5 points, and then let's go to Memorial Park. And let's go. I'm seriously looking at this screen a long time without any complaints. And that's all the routes I get. See, it's still not unlimited routes. So my route that I've got selected here is already capped. Okay, now I got to pay attention to the road. But look, I glanced up just for a second. It went away. All right, clear there. Preconditioning. Some of you guys have said you like this presentation better, so I'm going to leave it up. It stopped for that. Very, very poorly marked. I felt the brake slowing down on that one. That was good. It was almost an indecisive slowdown. So, what has everybody been doing for Thanksgiving? Of course, Thanksgiving is usually a U.S. holiday. Everybody has their own Thanksgivings. If you guys are watching in Europe or Korea or even Canada, you're like, whatever. Crazy Americans. I admit we are crazy. Specifically today, Black Friday. It's kind of silly, especially when the businesses start sending you Black Friday stuff, weeks in advance. But, Tesla did send us a Christmas present. Not me specifically or anybody that subscribes to FSD, but the FSD free trial went out. If you've got an AI4 car and you're not subscribed to FSD, you should have either received an email. All right, we're taking a creep here. We do have to wait on some traffic. So it got a nice gap from the left and from the right, so it's going to go right now. Nice, good commit. Yep. Oh, and I noticed I'm in Mad Max. Let me take it back down to standard just for the drive. You should have gotten an email about getting a free 30-day trial of FSD. And I think it's FSD 14.2.1 now is coming out to these cars. So, gosh, you need to take advantage of it. But I've been talking with some family members about this FSD stuff, especially about the amount that they use FSD. It's the learning curve. Unless you're watching videos like this, the learning curve to FSD is uncomfortable. It's like it's not even intuitive to somebody that doesn't understand how all this works. That push to drive literally just drives you. It feels like you need to do more. And when you do push to drive, if you've never done it before and never watched any sort of content, I would argue you don't know what you need to do with your pedals and your feet, because sometimes you get the press to drive button and press the accelerator to go forward and you get all these other sort of clues. But when you hit self-driving, it is so seamless the way it works. But if you've never used it before, I would say there's a barrier to entry just because you're not sure what the car is doing and not doing and what your responsibilities are. Getting an email that just says, hey, free FSD, that's great for people in the bubble we're in. And we're in a bubble. We're in a small group of even Tesla owners. What is 12% FSD take rate? All right, Rock and Roll took the first spot. That was a great choice. Not going to complain about parking selection there, angled spots. As soon as it parks, we'll go to self-drive. Sun is right in my eyes. I'm not pulling the visor down, and we're backing out. And here we go. So that means there's, 88% of Tesla owners that don't subscribe to FSD. I would argue they know what FSD is, or at least what FSD used to be last time they tried it. If last time you tried FSD was on the FSD 11 or 12, you have no idea what FSD is now. So these free trials are good, but you got to get butts in seats. In other words, the driver's seat. And if you really, really want to make the best impression, you need to have somebody that knows what they're doing in the passenger seat with you. And I can't tell you the number of times I've done that this weekend with family members just to go, you've got to see this. And I get in the car, but I watch them go, well, what do I do? And where does my foot go? Well, it says press the brake pedal. I'm like, no, you don't need to do the brake pedal. You just need to press that button. And the confusion around that beginning, how to get it going, is just enough that it's not obvious. So how do you get owners over that, or perhaps prospective owners over that? You got to get them in the seat, and if you have the chance of mentoring them, mentor them, and just walk them through those first few steps and convince them, no, listen, you don't need to do anything, but this camera's watching you. Oh, there's a camera up there. I hear that all the time. And you look at the screen, you play with the, this, and you get these flashes. Those are warnings. It's okay. It just means kind of look at the road. Oh, okay. It's just, advertising doesn't solve this part either. So this isn't a Tesla needs to advertise more. This is a training thing. When we implement a new function in an airplane, in aviation, You have to have a specific training program and a recurrent training program on how to use those systems, so you're constantly reinforced with it. We just don't install it on the airplane. And I shouldn't say that. There are times we do just install things on airplanes, and there is a piece of documentation you're responsible to have read, and then you have to acknowledge you read it, and then you're qualified. But most complex systems have a programmatic training program on how to use the equipment, and then you can go back and refer to it. Now, there are FSD videos. They're even in here in this screen, and they're on Tesla Online. But this is another fallacy I've played with, especially when I was working as a director of technology at our airline. You can't get people to go look at the training. How do you get people to look at videos? It's almost like the human mind refuses to look at training until it is required. So I'll be in an airplane, or I'll be watching somebody, and I'll say, hey, do you see this new thing we got? And they'll be like, I remember there was something about that. But their brain did not register that they needed that information, so they either glanced at it but did not process it. But as soon as you encounter something that you're like, I am missing this piece of information, and then you go study the training, it clicks, it makes sense, and you can process that information. All right, here we are back into the Supercharger. We violated urinal protocol once again, so we're parking right next to another Tesla. This is a 250 watt station, so it's not like it's sharing or anything like that. But we did not alternate spots. That's the common protocol. This woman sitting next to me is kind of like, why are you sitting right next to me when there's all these spots? But that's just the way it played out. So Tesla AI, we still need urinal protocol at the Superchargers, please. If you're just going to apply some logic. If there's not a spot to do that, then you just got to do what you just did. All right, so I'm going back to the human factors part of training. And I know every one of you watching this video can probably think, there's something to that. The brain or the mind or the laziness of the human is just somehow not able to process information in training or learning until it sort of has a need. And when you go through college, the entire college or school experience is jammed full of that. Why do I got to learn how to do long division? Why do I got to do this? Why do I got to learn that class? How is this going to affect me in life? And you get that apathetic learning mindset, and you don't absorb it. But the first time you need to know how to do something, to build something or to measure something or to whatever, you're going to be like, I think I remember where that book was. And you go and read it. Next thing you know, you have the piece of information you need. Okay, so let me take that little analogy all the way back to say we're trying to train FSD people, right? So we're in the car and there's a few little clues. We do have an emergency vehicle up here. It's not going to impact our trip. So it's just one of those situations I was just commenting to you. But after the human needs the information, that's when the training materials need to be presented. So like if you're having trouble engaging or something, there ought to be some training you can go to. I know you're not going to do that with the UI, but that's the best way to train. Have you ever used an app that was designed well, and as soon as you update a new version, there's this overlay and it tells you to click here and click here and click here? That is good training because it's relevant to the time you're installing an application of new functionality that's enabled that wasn't there the last time you did it. Otherwise, you're just going to open your app and it looks and feels the same. I don't know what changed, but the application is prompting you of new capabilities and showing you how to use it. So UI design and things like that are really, really hard to do correctly. And I don't necessarily have all of the advice for the AI team on how to get it right, but I do know there's a barrier we have to fight. Enthusiasts like us that are using it are definitely part of the solution, but we're not going to get butts in seats on people we don't know. So, I don't know, you guys comment in the comments. What do you think the best way to teach people how to use FSD that don't have a mentor is? How do you get someone that just got an email to figure it out? Now, every family might have a guy or a girl or a child or somebody that is into that sort of stuff and is going to dive deep and go learn it for you. And that's great. Use those people to do it. And the hardest barrier is probably not the person that's never used it. The hardest barrier is probably somebody that has used it before and didn't like it. right? So if you did version 10 or 11 or even 12 in its early days and you got scared or said, that is not for me, getting you to come around and use version 14 is going to be harder than someone that just bought a brand new Tesla and heard about this FSD thing. How do we win people back to try it? I haven't done anything in this car for the last, whatever it is, 15 minutes, and it's just driving. That is unbelievable. And the world doesn't know yet. Most people think they know what FSD is, but their clue to it is what Jalopnik has written or what some media outlet said in some, screen post that was ultimately meant to bash Elon or something like that. That's their last touch point. If their last touch point wasn't somebody showing them this, we got to find out how to get to them. I guess I'm on a soapbox now, but wow. All right, so I do have a coffee cup in my hand again, like I have had before. Do you see this here? And it's down in kind of in between my legs, kind of holding it low so you can still see the steering wheel. There was a time I got dinged a lot for having that, and I don't think I've gotten dinged once on this drive yet. So my coffee cup, or both hands need to be available, I think was the warning, might be loosened up a little bit. Coffee break. Keep my soapbox going. All right, we are joining the interstate on a non-rush hour morning. Let's go to Mad Max just to see what she'll do today. I got a truck coming up from the left, passing me on the left at the moment. I really don't want to, but okay, so Mad Max is on. We're on a 55. He's doing what looks like about 70. I got 3 miles to my exit. So getting in the far left lane might not be the best situation. Got one nice streak up there. I did wash the windows for you guys this morning, but that last streak was me wiping with the rag, and I am not the perfect window washer, as you guys know. I need some better technique. All right, anyway. I'm not going to self-criticize myself too much on that. All right, so what else have we got going on? So we got the FSD trial that's happening. When the emails went out, I did hear that SMS text messages are even going out. That's pretty good. A lot of people don't read their emails, especially maybe the emails they have associated with their Tesla account. So sending text messages is great. It will feel a little bit like a stocking stuffer, a freebie that'll get you through the holidays. We got rental programs going on. I think I even saw test drives in Europe. Man, if they aren't putting the full court press on the EU regulators, I don't know what's up with those guys over there. I know they think they're doing good, but somehow the bureaucracy of regulation has gone a little bit too far over there. I know that the people doing it are thinking they're doing it for the common safety and, managing large groups of people through law and regulation is an important thing to think through. But you got to allow some sort of trial programs or temporary permits or exclusions just so things can evolve and grow. I don't know. It's just taking too long. You're gonna starve yourself of the technology that's creating the next revolution in the entire industry. And there's probably countless industries over there in Europe that are feeling this. I'm just using one I'm familiar with. I hope it's not political. That would be dumb. Technology and politics should be completely separate. All right, so there was also something in the news about Tesla FSD licensing to Faraday. Of all the people that want to license, Faraday's who we got. I really thought it was going to be Ford, but that isn't the rumor, so I don't know if that's really true, if that's going to happen or not. Listen, licensing FSD is no walk in the park. You're going to have to be vertically integrated almost from the design of the vehicle. You're not going to be able to just slap cameras and cables and harnesses into a type design you've already got. So while Tesla may say they want an FSD license, they've got to, just putting it on an existing car is not something that is just going to work. I mean, we watched what it took on the Cybertruck to get it there, and that was their own vehicle. It is parity now. I would argue that the Cybertruck is almost or even as good as the Model Y. The acceleration I feel in Mad Max on the Cybertruck, hey, we got a little robot wash there. That camera was clean though, so I don't know why it got the urge to do that other than when we turned off of the interstate, the shadows happened. So I think that was a shadow darkness perception rather than a dirty camera. But now I got blue juice everywhere, but anyway, it is what it is. Anyway, we were talking about licensing. I know it would be great for the company, but it has to be early because you got to get the cameras right. You got some of the training data to apply. Collecting the training data can't be its own entity. All right, here we are coming up on this crazy new roundabout railroad intersection. No traffic here. It's not really mapped well. So we're roundabouting. We're going to the intersection. Now we're actually crossing railroad tracks in a roundabout. And we got to go left here. That car's coming, but it's not going to impact us. And away we go. So it does it just fine. It is doing that visually because it is not mapped correctly. All right, I changed my route. We can stick here on this road, which is fine. That's what I wanted. What did it choose? See how these blue routes? This is what I'm talking about. I was selecting a light blue route for a way I wanted to go. Now I know these are routes beyond here, but that's what I was talking about. And it changed its mind or recalculated is probably what it was doing. I truly don't think it was overriding my choice. I think a continual recalculation happened and it chose its best choice after I had already selected one. My point in saying this is if I'm selecting one, you sort of got to stop recalculating. Or at least ask me again before you change it, right? That's what I'm talking about. Has anybody, I really want to know if anyone else has seen that. A nice, good use of the parking spaces to let another car go by there. That was great. So there were some films out there on 14.2 about more leaf issue, blowing leaves. There were some really good clips of some braking. Some of them even were saying it was emergency braking, which I'm not going to doubt it was or wasn't. It probably was emergency braking. And to understand how emergency braking versus FSD braking are kind of layered in, I don't know how to describe that accurately. Could they have fixed it in FSD with a weight tweak, but then automatic emergency braking, AEB kicked in? Yeah, I don't know how to put that in the category to say what is it going to take to fix it. Maybe they have fixed it in this 0.1 release, but the camera's ability to see more detail has been obvious in version 14, but that additional detail has led to things like now the car is emergency braking for leaves, thinking it's a flock of birds or whatever a group of leaves might register as. It would be great to know how it was labeled coming through. But, so yeah, I don't know what the fix to that is other than to loosen its tolerance and allow it to run through things. But if you're going to allow it to run through things, what does a human do? Somehow when I see something on the road, I do some sort of, is that going to hurt my car analysis? My experience level, my training data says leaves are okay. But if they were, I don't know, what else could be that size that could damage your car? Big sticks, something you didn't want to scratch your underhood, scratch your paint. What if they were, pieces of wood, from a carpenter's truck or something that fell on the road and they were all kind of rolling down? Those are hard objects. You have some sort of mass or hardness test maybe in your head. If you're going down a highway and a piece of cardboard blows off of a truck, are you able to assess its mass quickly enough, but the FSD camera has got to say, oh my God, is that a car, a truck, a box, a steel box? I don't know. How do you get that level of human knowledge into this model to understand these things at that level of detail and at that level of speed? It's an interesting thing to think through because to me, it feels like it's a mass/hardness detection that I do through experience. And I know what leaves weigh, and I know what cardboard weighs. I know what, lumber and plywood is like. Another nice job there. Had a sip of coffee. Let's keep going. Nice truck right behind me at that moment. Waited just a moment, and now we're continuing. So as we think through this argument, what other things are small but dangerous? If you were driving behind a, let's say it was a contractor's truck, and he had a interesting situation with the biker there. I had agreed. The biker did not look like it was stopping initially. The car paused, and it was a great pause there. Nothing miraculous, but it did a great job. Very smooth, no braking issues at all. If you were behind a contractor's truck, and you're sitting there going, look, it's a roofing contractor, and there was a box of nails sitting in the back of that truck, and your brain's sitting there going, hey, look at that. Maybe you didn't even register it. And then that box of nails spills over and starts coming on the road. You as a human are probably going to go, oh my God, I'm going to get some flat tires. I don't know how to get that level of understanding inside of a model like this. I don't know. We're not there yet. I don't think we're there yet. I mean, we can avoid everything, but I don't think we're getting that level of understanding of, like, you know, nails and tires equals bad. But, you know, let me think, what if they were cotton balls? I don't know. I'm trying to think of something small and whatever. And the cotton balls blew out and came all over your car. Okay, yeah, that's fine. They're cotton balls. Tiny little indecision pause there. I saw a brake situation and a wheel jerk. There was an oncoming car, but it was very muted. So that was where a brake stabbing event would have been in the past. But that time it was this weird snipped decision. So in other words, it was the same event, but it got nipped in the bud, if that makes sense. I felt it, I saw it, but it continued quickly. It made a quick decision. All right, here we go. We got the thin chain test. What's it going to do? It's going to try to back in again. It's going to show us here. You remember last time it went very quickly. Okay, we're not there, so we're not going to do it, guys. We're not going to back into a chain. So thin chain test, not there yet. All right, so let me edit my trip. And we're there. Start self-driving. Continue. Whew, sun's in my eyes. All right, this is good. Oh, look at you. See how the map is good? See, it's like it's modifying. Oh, wait, it might be going back to my POI there. All right, it's going to park here. It was in parking mode. You know how we've talked about that? Once its mind is set on parking, it's in parking mode. It had already remapped, but it was still in, because I disengaged, I hit start self-driving, it was in parking mode, and it was still looking for a spot. I kind of aborted the thin chain over here, so it found another spot, and it pulled into that little, valet spot. That was a perfect spot to go. But that little parking mindset, I wish we had an indicator. Maybe we do have an indicator up here. I think some of this language around, I'm going to go back to a standard here since we're off the highway. The parking selections and things like that. Somebody pointed out to me on a video that if it shows you where it's planning on parking, it's in parking mindset. Maybe there's more to it than that. A little bit of a pause here. We're clear from the left for a while, 2 cars, and then we're going to go to the cul-de-sac and see what we get down there. So everything has been absolutely perfect with a few little braking indecision things I showed out that were executed perfectly, except for the thin chain test. So the thin chain test is still a resolution issue, I think. I can see it in what they are giving us as feedback on the screen. All right, so we're coming behind a policeman here. Parking garage is selected. If you remember, I don't want to go to the parking garage here. Parking lot, no. Charger, no. Let's just do curbside again. I really want street to be available here, but see, I can't do street. I want to park right here on the side of the road like these cars are, but the map data hasn't given me that choice. This is still kind of in that area of, I don't know why they do it this way. So I don't know what this police car is going to do as far as parking or stopping, and my decision on, okay, this is going to be curbside. So after it parks, I'm going to just go ahead and hit start self-driving. And now we're driving again, but now we're going to have to interact with the police car just a little bit. And it looks like he's just kind of parking there in the curbside section. So we should execute a 3-point turn, and it's doing that perfectly. Good. Now he's moving forward just a little bit. So he moved the vehicle, but I think I saw him throw his car into gear. Of course, I've got cameras on the top of my car. I may look a little odd to a police car. I wasn't going to do anything encroaching his vehicle or anything like that. Didn't want to scare him. Like, see that little shirt on the road? It decided to drive over the shirt. We're going to take advantage. I would be accelerating to make this green light. It didn't. It just kind of meandered through, which was just fine. All right, so now we're doing some street parking up here. So see how street is available up here on the street? I don't know. Ask man if you're listening. I still want to be able to select options that you're not presenting. I'm not sure how to do it, but it's close. It's just not always right on the options there. And I definitely still need precision parking. Like, there are some POI addresses that are not correct in the map. All right, where's it going to choose today? It should go on the right up here. Okay, so we do have a driveway. So this is going to be another good example. If it pulls all the way forward, it's going to block the driveway. It didn't pull forward, did it? Look, it's going to back up or just stay here? It just stayed here. That's fine. We're going to continue self-driving. Now I got a rapidly approaching car coming, and it waited. That was good. I was sitting there thinking, if you pull out in front of that car, you're going to really make him decelerate. But you made a really good choice there with your little neural network brain. Look at you showing off on Black Friday. Okay, we were talking about object detection, and then we did the thin chain test, and the thin chain test failed again. It was going to back into it. The resolution of what we get on the dash cam is adequate for me to see there is a chain there, but my eyes see the chain clear as day. And even if it was the bollards between the chains that were the clue that, hey, there's something that goes between there, you need to put 1 and 2 together to know you can't park there. So backing into a small object just opens up the whole object detection or context of those sort of things, right? So if that was I'm not going to even say it. I was going to say a thin string or something light. Would you let your car back into it? Maybe in a test I would, but the point is they didn't want anybody to park there, and I tried to park. But back to the truck with his box of nails versus his box of cotton balls. That's not a great example, but you know what I'm trying to say here. The car would drive through one and should avoid the other. This all started with leaves, because leaves were happening the month this was released, and the new cars got it, and instantly they saw this leaf issue that was what was raised. Well, why didn't that come up in the training? Well, it just didn't in California and Texas and wherever they got the training data from, or the season just happened and the leaves just started falling. But it brings up the point of how do you take that to the next level? How do you take what leaves represents in this one little bug and think it through all the other things we as humans make decisions about avoiding or stopping for? So I want you to think of all the times you've had something happen on the highway where high speed was a concern and what you did to avoid it. Have you ever been on a highway and seen a wheel bouncing down the side of the road that came off of a car or rolled out? I have. And if you don't get out of the way of that wheel, you're going to be in a hurt. I mean, it may come through the windshield if it bounces just right. I think that this would see something that large and try to avoid it because it's got size and speed. But how many soft plastic trash bags have you seen that go wispy through, the wind with nothing in it or something very, very light in it, but it has the size of what could be a basketball, but it's got the mass of a tiny little plastic bag? You as a driver would probably drive through that plastic bag because you didn't want to risk the cars around you and what might be required in avoiding it. Now, in that same statement, you could say, well, the Tesla would know if it could go around it without hitting it or have to go through it. And you're right. It probably can do better than a human in quickly reacting about whether or not going around is safe, or do you have somebody in your blind spot you need to clear first. But know what the human brain is doing with those little object detections and the mass determination or danger determination is really unreal. And another thing that we do on the highway that I don't know that I've seen the Tesla do consciously yet is straddle an object. So let's talk about roadkill. And if you're on a road and you witness roadkill at the last second because there's somebody in front of you, the best thing to do probably isn't to fully go around that object, but put it right between your wheels if its height is lower than your battery pack. Is the vehicle straddling objects for anybody consciously? Have you seen it go over an occupancy network where it was obvious it was intentional? I don't know that I've witnessed that. I know I've seen it drive over things, but I don't think it was doing it intentionally as an avoidance maneuver. It might have just been going over it and hoping it didn't hit it. Make sure I got my route here right for you guys. Yep, I think we do. We're good here. We're going to Biscotti's. And this is where we get into the car's age. The FSD brain, the little neural network brain I talk about, is like, it's still kind of like it's a very good driver. It knows how to drive, but its experience level is still kind of like a teenager. You know, what would you expect your 15-year-old daughter or son to do the first time they encountered a wispy plastic bag? Perfectly parked, no issues there, angle parking. Some cars coming up from behind me, and it stayed put, didn't even creep. You see the red bar coming up? Now we got room, here we go. So, panic might be something that your kids might do when they see a bag at first. Probably not overreact, probably go straight through it would be what most kids would do, just based off of their experience, unless there was a startle effect or something like that happened. I don't know. I think it's worth a conversation. I think it's worth talking about, but it isn't something that I think is magically going to get fixed in version 14.3. What is version 14.3? You guys feel that segue right there? So 14.3, Elon has been saying, has the last piece of the puzzle or something. He didn't say this is the last release, but he said something that's the final piece of the puzzle or last piece of the puzzle. I got the quote wrong. But he implied that there's a big functional piece that is coming in 14.3 that will kind of finish the outline, maybe, of what they're, and then they're going to continue to iterate. I don't know what 14.3 is. Many have speculated, but the fact they have dropped reasoning, Ashok has talked about it in his speeches, presentations. Elon has mentioned a couple. So I think it's reasoning. And whatever reasoning manifests itself in driving, we're probably not going to see it on the screen. You know, option A, option B, I chose option A. We're not going to see that chain of thought, I don't think, on the screen. Gosh, I would love to. But they will be able to see it in some sort of logging. The snapshot, I hope, has some sort of chain of thought log in there that they can see what happened, if that's what we're talking about. But reasoning could factor in to this leaf problem. And I don't want to address the leaf problem as the leaf problem, but I'm talking about object detection and what to do with objects you detect. You can go to the thin chain test, you can go to leaves, you can go with a plastic bag, any of them you want to use. But once you have reasoning, you very easily could start to think about, is every one of those situations becoming the trolley problem? And the trolley problem, for those of you who don't know, is a very old kind of thought experiment or mind experiment that, basically, if you give a computer two choices where, you're going to kill, the car has to kill one of two people. You're going to kill the old woman or the young child. There's a scenario like that. And how does the car make the impossible choice of who to kill if it has to hit one or the other? So you just hypothetically think through, how do you imply that kind of reasoning or logic into a vehicle so that it can make that choice? And it went this way for me today that it normally doesn't go. That's okay. This is fine. We're just missing the drawbridge with this situation. I want to go to the drawbridge because we might hit the drawbridge. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I've got a point in here for Stinson Park And I'm going to go ahead and change it quickly, and it should do a loop real quick. Yes, I think I caught it in time. I want the drawbridge to be in my drives because one day I'm going to hit that crossbar coming down or the drawbridge coming up, and we're going to learn a little bit about what happens there. So that's why I changed this route. If we just jump back out on Roosevelt, we're just kind of doing lights and traffic and that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of detail here. So reasoning, we're back on reasoning. So the leaf problem or the bag problem or the thin chain problem, I'm not sure about thin chain in this, option A, option B, option C, I choose A. It might have some sort of logic tree that will help it get to the better choice given the set of choices it sees in front of itself right now. So maybe let's use the leave example, and let's just say, is going through the leaves better than stopping and the person behind me hitting it? Is going through the leaves better than hitting the brakes aggressively, and perhaps spilling someone's coffee in the car? I don't know that it's going to think through that. Or is it just going to go, what is the risk of that? They look light, they might not be light, but let's hope they're light and go through them because of their speed. Maybe reasoning will help there. I don't think that's what it's about right now. I think it's going to be more parking scenarios. You can kind of see it trying to reason right now, but it's not really reasoning yet. It's like you got all of these choices of parking, and you got the one little dot about where I'm trying to go. And oh, by the way, the POI is still quite a critical path on where we can navigate to, right? It's not precise enough to always get us where we want. My daughter's house, for example, we put in her address, and 3 months ago, including Apple Maps, Google Maps, and the Tesla, every map scenario navigating to her house now puts her on the house behind her on the other block. And it's the weirdest thing, and it happened to all of the mapping systems at the same time. So it's like the POI, as where we're going, isn't the best solution all the time. And I know a lot of you around, the world have got their own little, my map data sucks too story, and why it chooses one over the other. I don't know. So I think reasoning is probably what 14.3 is about, and how it manifests and make decision. I hope they have the latency of decision making down so low that we don't even feel it thinking. But more often than not, chain of thought has produced better results in large language models, language not necessarily the vision model, than this single shot strategy of just using probabilities going straight through a decision. Because it can think through things. As the situation evolves, the probabilities change. So I think we're probably going to feel the car changing its mind more once reasoning comes. And we're going to be like, oh, here it goes. And the next thing you know, it fixes itself and does something else. I think that will be the manifestation of reasoning and chain of thought in the car. I don't know how it's going to fix all of our little issues. I really hope it helps navigation. So if they can apply reasoning to navigation, lane selection, right? We've talked about that before. I can go this way or that way, and the locals always go this way, but the car doesn't understand that yet. So there's no logical reasoning on why to choose one or the other. It's choosing one. Maybe they can start collecting data, heat map data, or everybody seems to go that way, or you've disengaged 5 times, I take you this way, so I'm going to start taking you that way. That would be great. Camera visibility limited. I'm getting that warning because of this sun right in my eyes. I don't know, it doesn't look like sun there though, does it? That camera's not blocked. I don't know what you're talking about there. That's crazy. So we have been driving for 44 minutes. And I didn't do anything but avoid backing into the thin chain test. Nothing. Multiple routes. This was an Uber taxi driving around, or a robo-taxi driving around point to point. Slowed down there for a school zone. I'm not in school zone time. No, I might be in school zone times. I might have gotten that one right, guys. It might have gotten that one right. And I think the end school zone, it sped back up. I think that was better. We need to look back at that and double check it, but I think it's Black Friday, so school is not at session. It has no idea about that. All it has is the school zone times. We are in the time window before 8:30. It slowed down, and the speed limit here went back up right at the end school zone time. So school zones might have been an improvement here. That was great. That might be the one highlight from this video that was like notable. Everything else was just boring. I bet there's nobody still here. If you guys are still watching this video, I love it when you post and go, I'm still here at minute 44 or whatever we're at. All right, we're gonna pull into my neighbor's driveway here that's got this little lot he lets me pull into. And last time we did this video, it tried to pull into his garage that has lumber in it, and I had to intervene. So let's go ahead and keep it this time. Okay, it's got lined up at the left side this time, and there is no lumber, so you're gonna pull into the garage like you own this place. Holy smokes. Look at you. Nice job. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Happy Black Friday. I hope if you celebrate Thanksgiving, you and your family were able to get together or you had a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate all of you that have supported me and continue to watch these videos. Listen, there's a lot of people making great videos these days. You know, go out and find theirs too. You know, support everybody that's spending the time doing this. It is worthwhile. It does take a lot of effort, and acknowledge those that do it for you, that just like to sit back and watch. And if you're just sitting back and watching this on your holiday weekend, I appreciate y'all doing this. Spread the love. Teach everybody what FSD is all about. And if you can, get butts in seats and teach somebody how to do it. Have a great day, everybody.